Welcome to The Real Deal with Tricia Riel. That's me, Trish the Dish. It's been a while since I've offered a comedic astro report. I've been busy working on my house and publishing my third Zephram Gates book, but the energies have also been a lot to process, generally. If you can stay calm while all around you is chaos, then you probably haven't completely understood the situation. Anyway, many of the characters from my Zephram Gates books will be chiming in during this report, so hold on to your hats. Some of us actually have fancy bonnets. So, we've been in a bit of a holding pattern in 2020, with each week being just as intense as the last. The conjunctions of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in Capricorn have continued to wreak havoc and expose problems in our political structures. This particular configuration of planets in Capricorn calls for deep transformations for each and every one of us inside. And with Mars and Aries squaring that Capricorn party since late July, there's been a real battle of the gods in the cosmos that has intensified all the vibes. COVID has spiked in a number of places. Fires have raged in California and Colorado, and people have been generally cuckoo. Yeah, I've noticed how the evening news is where they begin with "good evening" and then proceed to tell you why it isn't.
Yeah, and after saying how some people wear their masks, I understand why contraception fails.
Anyway, there have been so many internal and external challenges as the god of war, Mars, squares off with the heavy-hitting planets traveling through Capricorn. So much deep structural transformation. This is a time of deconstruction leading to a need for reconstruction. We've been facing walls and doing our best to overcome insurmountable obstacles within and without. The COVID-19 situation has been especially stressful for the Flat Earth Society. They fear that social distancing measures could really push people over the edge. Yes, so many rules upon rules and so many tests. It really has been an intense time energetically and cosmically. Keeping our good humor in the face of so many political and personal challenges is quite the epic challenge.
Yeah, I love my friends, but I miss them. I mean, I'm even forgetting what some of them look like. I think they have eyes.
As I mentioned in the spring, the last time we had Pluto in the late degrees of Capricorn and joined by a number of other planets was in 1771. This was pre-1776, when there was so much unrest in the U.S. colonies prior to the American Revolution.
Yeah, but constipated people don't give a crap.
The overall astrological pattern looks most similar to what was going on in the early 1500s, at the onset of the Renaissance. Although these are turbulent and unusual times, it does look like it has the potential for laying the groundwork to usher in a new paradigm and a new renaissance for ourselves.
Do you know, was it Terminator Z when he accidentally got sent back in time to the Renaissance? I'll be back.
Although Bach was actually alive well past the Renaissance time period, you get the idea. To get Bach on track, these next 2 weeks of 2020 are kind of a climax of the 2020 energies. We've got an epic full blue moon on October 31st and some wild energies in the first 2 weeks of November, too. It's not just the ocean that gets pulled on.
Yeah. Today, a man knocked on my door and asked for a small donation toward the local swimming pool. So, I gave him a glass of water.
The full moon on October 31st is particularly unusual because the moon will be conjunct unpredictable Uranus. Uranus typically represents liberation, revelation, and change. The planet actually orbits on its side and was originally named George. I kid you not. Anyway, the message for this full moon conjunct Uranus is to expect the unexpected. For those of you who have been putting in the Saturn work and taking real responsibility in your lives, you could sense the beginning of a welcome change or a slight shift in the energies, finally.
But be careful. Never, under any circumstances, should you take a sleeping pill and a laxative on the same night.
With Uranus in Taurus, conjunct the moon, and opposing the sun in Scorpio, our values are changing and transforming. We are creating our new life structures based on our evolving values.
For me, I want to hang a map of the world in my house. Then I'm going to put pins into all the locations that I've traveled to. But first, I'm going to have to travel to the top 2 corners of the map so it won't fall down.
Anyway, with Mercury retrograde until November 3rd and Mars retrograde until November 14th, we still have much to redo. Things like rethinking, revisiting, repairing, re-envisioning, and all the re-words. A lot of us are reconsidering how our political process works, for instance. Like, why do Americans choose from just 2 people to run for president and 50 for Miss America? Good question, Tree. Government can be a real wonder right now. Internally, we've been on a bit of an obsessive inner journey in 2020, and we are almost ready to hatch.
Life is like a bird. It's pretty cute until it shits on your head.
So true. Venus moved into its home sign of Libra this past Wednesday, October 28th, while Mercury also moved backwards into Libra. This brings a Venusian energy to the mix as we begin to balance many things inside and out.
Yeah, but I think it's bad luck to be superstitious.
The first couple of weeks of November are particularly intense as Mercury in Libra squares the Capricorn planets. Because Mercury remains in apparent retrograde motion until November 3rd, Election Day in the US, it could make that day quite the transition day. Communications about the US election results are likely to flip-flop throughout the day and into November 4th.
More waiting can be excruciating. Number 45 is depriving some poor village of its idiot.
Because Mars is also in retrograde motion until November 14th, there's still quite a bit to process until then, inwardly and in the world. If you don't know what to do with yourself, worrying works. 90% of the things I worry about never even happen. Venus and Mars will be in an opposition in early and mid-November, both in their home signs. So the dialogue between the masculine and the feminine will be strong. There will be quite a balance between the need for peace and harmony and the wish to assert our warrior vibes. The opposition between Venus and Mars will come to a kind of climax on November 9th. This gets me wondering, if winning isn't everything, why do we bother to count votes? On November 12th, Jupiter and Pluto are slowly coming together in their third exact conjunction of 2020. This is another high point of the COVID situation, but it also puts another giant magnifying lens on the corruption inherent in archaic political structures that we've outgrown. The WHO and the CDC now recommend that we wear blindfolds as well as masks to protect us from what's really going on. By November 14th, Mars goes direct, so we begin to move slowly forward in more real ways. There's a new moon in Scorpio on the evening of November 14th as well, so early to mid-November is full of all kinds of challenges, transitions, and tensions, especially as so many of these energies shift from November 12th to the 14th.
Conditions in hospitals have been particularly intense, but I don't find health-related puns funny anymore since I started suffering from an irony deficiency.
We are likely to have more potent, clear news by mid-November, November 12th to the 14th, and more clarity with projects we've been working on personally. Remember that Jupiter and Saturn will come together in Aquarius by solstice on December 21st. So we're in the home stretch of the 2020 madness.
Yeah, 2020 is a year that a lot of us would rather forget. I once heard a joke about amnesia, but I don't remember how it goes.
Our relationship to authorities and the structures that be is undergoing a deep transformation. We will be moving into a new phase in 2021, where we'll be looking at how rules serve our communities or not. We will more fully embrace being the authority of our own lives, more independently than before. But first, we must travel through the eye of the needle here. We must endure and persevere despite the difficulties and restrictions of this time period. There's still quite a bit of structure to deconstruct and reconstruct. Do your best to keep your good humor and lay the groundwork for a better vision and a rebirth. Keep plugging away and know that things will shift before too long.
Just remember, if the world didn't suck a little, we'd all fall off.
And for me, I finally managed to get rid of that nasty electrical charge I've been carrying. Now I'm ecstatic.
If you enjoyed this report, or if you're interested in scheduling a reading with me or learning more about the Zephram Gates books, you can communicate with me here or buy my books on Amazon or through the Zephram Gates website. Please share this video, like, and subscribe. You can also donate to my Patreon page at patreon.com/Tricia Riel. Links provided below. I'm Trish the Dish, and this has been The Real Deal with Tricia Riel.